I will ask. Don't feel shy to ask. Right, so that is the first part of the intention. Secondly, I will put into practice what is being said. And thirdly, I will convey to others what I have learned. Right? Because the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, has stated, the best sadaqah is that a Muslim leader, Muslim learns knowledge of the deen, or whatever the knowledge is, and then passes it on to fellow Muslims. So let's make that our intention. Firstly, I'm here to learn, I'll pay attention. Let's make that intention in our minds, all of us. I'm here to learn, I'm going to pay attention to what is being said, and if I don't understand anything, I'm going to ask, okay? One. Secondly, I'm going to put it into practice. And thirdly, I'm going to pass it on to others. And bear in mind that if you do not put into practice what you've learned within 48 hours, it's unlikely you're going to put it into practice. Okay? Have you made this intention? Have you made it? Okay, good. Now, you are very, very fortunate that I'm going to be using a leadership training material that I've been able to bring down from America for you. I've partnered an international organization that has been doing leadership training for the past 25 years to the youth. So this leadership material is called the Habitudes Leadership Training Material. And that is why many of you were requested this morning before we commenced to complete the pre-program survey. How many of you completed it? Raise your hands, please. Right, now those of you who didn't complete it, maybe you didn't have the smartphones. At the rear of the hall, there is a computer there, right? So that's made available to you. It takes about 10 minutes. It is compulsory for you to complete that pre-test. Because what will happen then, at the end of the 5 sessions, there is going to be a post-survey that will be carried out. We don't have access to your answers. It goes directly to America, the people who've developed this. They will then analyze where you were when you started today and how you've developed after the 5 sessions. That will be good for us and it will be good for your schools as well. Okay? So those of you who haven't completed it, please, during the course of today, go back to the computer at the rear or come to me. If your parents have got smartphones, then I will email that questionnaire to you. Right, what's also very important, as I mentioned, is that there has to be application. You have to apply what you've learned. So every subsequent workshop that we have, we will start off the beginning, first 45 minutes or so, on a feedback session. What were the gems that you picked up from the previous session? What is it that you've implemented and how you've implemented it? Because what might happen is that he might have seen something in a particular presentation that he missed. He might be implementing something that she has not implemented. So this is very, very useful. So, and as Dr. Baker stated, it is important to make copious notes. At the end of the workshop, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be giving you a USB which will clip onto this lanyard with all the notes, all the presentations, all the video clips for that particular day. So you'll get comprehensive notes. But please, in between, there's many examples that we give might not be in the notes. So take copious notes, please, okay? We mustn't remind you about that. And then right at the end will be an overall evaluation of the 5 days, besides that post-survey, to see exactly how you've fared. As I mentioned, learners have come from many schools. We sent invitations to about 13 Islamic schools, South Coast, North Coast, Midlands, and about only 8 schools have taken up the opportunity. So you're very fortunate that you are on the program. Now, what's very important during all our workshops is that you're going to be speaking for yourself. You're not going to be speaking for anyone else. We are in the habit of speaking in the third person, we, they, etc. So going forward now, and this is something that you must learn and even take back to your schools, etc., is that when you're going to be speaking, you're going to be speaking in the first person I. But this is the humble I, not the boastful I. So if you are saying something, normally you'd say, yes, this is their habit, this is what they do, this is what we do. No, no more. Now it's going to be me, what I do, because this is self-improvement. But what you'll notice is that you'll default to what you've been doing in the past, and every time you default to that third person, I'll remind you, your colleagues will remind you, and over a period of time, you'll get used to it, right? As I mentioned, there's 5 seminars in all, lots of concepts to cover. And the mind is not a vessel to be full, so it's not downloading like it happens in school, just a whole lot of lectures you have to attend, swat it off, regurgitate it in the exam, and get results. That's not the purpose of these seminars, right? So the whole idea is to ignite that mind of yours. We only use less than 10% of the brain. The balance of it is just left idle. So we try to ignite it. Therefore, we will get many visiting lecturers, both local and international, when they are down, just in order to give you a different perspective to things, from a Sharia perspective, obviously, but to open up your minds. It is said, he who knows others is learned, he who knows himself is wise. So what is more important? Knowing others or knowing ourselves? Ourselves. Now, what are the qualities of a focused participant? We want to derive the most benefit out of all these seminars. So what do we have to focus on? Firstly, we have to be punctual. Make sure that we punctual. I know some of you have to come from distance, but plan properly in future. So we, as you notice, we started punctually at 9. So we will try and keep to our time, so you also will like your assistance in that regard. Secondly, you have to be disciplined. Thirdly, you must be attentive. We'll give you breaks in between. Try not to make it monotonous. You have to be cooperative. So for instance, when we asked you about meeting your friends or meeting others here, the boys were totally lost. They stood while the girls already met the third person. The boys are still, haven't even met one. I don't know why. Right? So you have to cooperate. You have to be on your toes, as it were. Interactive. It's going to be very interactive. Therefore, the seating is going to be in this way, and inshallah for the next seminars we'll try and get extra tables for you. So all the participants will be sitting at tables. There's going to be a lot of interaction between each of you. You must be highly involved. There must be a yearning to learn, right? And you must be prepared to share your knowledge. So these are characteristics of focused participants, and we want all of you to be there. And I'll conclude this segment with the Zen story. There's two things I need to say. One is the Zen story. Now the Zen story goes this way. There was a very, very intelligent man. He had many qualifications, many certificates, many degrees, etc. So he thought he knew everything. Then one day someone asked him, have you been to the monk? The monk is a very wise man. Have you learned anything from him? So he thought to himself, I know everything. Why should I go to him? Then he thought to himself, okay, maybe there's something that the monk can teach me. So he decided to go to the monk. When he went to the monastery, the monk invited him in, asked him, what do you want? He said, no, I want to see whether I can learn anything from you. So the monk already realized that he came with a particular mindset. So the monk had green tea. So he asked him, do you want some green tea? He said, yes. So he began pouring the green tea into a cup. And as he was pouring, the cup was getting more and more full, until such time that it began overflowing, actually fell onto the table and onto the carpet. So this wise man, he was very upset about it, and he exclaimed, you fool, stop pouring the tea. Don't you see the tea is going to waste? And calmly the monk replied, you see, when your mind is already full, you cannot learn anything new, just as the cup could not take the tea after it was full. Similarly, you cannot learn things from a different perspective if you take it for granted that whatever you know is right and true. Right? So the point he was making is, if you come here with a full cup, you think you know everything, you're not going to learn anything. So what we need to do is we need to empty that cup of ours. Right? And only when we come with an empty cup will we be able to take in things. Agree with that? Will we do that? Yes? Yes or no? Inshallah. Okay, so that's the question we have to ask ourselves. We cannot become what we need to be by remaining what we are. Let go of the old you if you want to be the new you. Agree? Looking so constipated, brother. You understand? Yeah, nod. Acknowledge. The first problem for all of us, men and women, is not to learn, but to unlearn. Very, very important. Every day you must unlearn the ways that hold you back. You must rid yourself of negativity so you can learn to fly. Now, I'll conclude on this. Who is that gentleman there? Let's ask the girls. Who is that gentleman there? Hashim Amla, everyone knows. You know, I used to play a lot of cricket in my days, and I used to even play provincial level. So when I got married, my wife came from a family that was totally disinterested in sports. So even when I used to play provincial level, I used to come home, she shouldn't even ask, how was the match? Did you all win? Did you all lose? Nothing. So I asked her one day, you know, this newspapers report how well we've done, but why don't you ask anything? Totally disinterested. And then about 8-9 years ago, Hashim Amla hit the news. And after that, every time he's playing, what has Hashim scored? What has Hashim scored? I said, no, all the years that I used to play, you never asked me once what I scored, and now you're asking about Hashim Amla. And I used to play provincial cricket. So she said, well, he plays for South Africa, you never play for South Africa. Right, so all the girls know about Hashim Amla. Now, when he commenced playing, those who are older will remember, when he commenced playing, when I saw him for the first time, I told my sons he will not be a success. Why? Because the way in which he was batting. So those of you who understand cricket, normally when you, especially if you're opening batsman, then you have to stand with your head straight, fast bowler bowls so fast that within a second, the ball is already at you. And even when you have your bat lift, it mustn't go too much at an angle, it must be more towards, closer to you. So that's one thing I saw that he was doing wrong, the bat angle. And secondly, you'll notice up to this day, when he's standing, when he's batting, even before the ball comes, he shuffles forward and then he shuffles back. Isn't that what he does? So when I noticed that, I told my sons, he definitely won't be a success. Because once he starts playing with the really fast bowlers in the world, even before he comes back, the ball will be at him and will get out. So the first series, he played against one of the lesser known opponents. So he did okay. The second series, he was against, I think so, England or Australia, and he was a total failure. For 1 year, he was not selected for South Africa. 1 year. So what did he do? He went back to his coaches. He had, over the years, picked up some bad habits. So he had to unlearn in order to learn again. And today we know where he is, right? He's one of the top 3 batsmen in the world. So what we have to do is we have to unlearn to learn. Who is the gentleman here? Famous golf player. Tiger Woods. At one time he was #1 in the world, isn't that so? He's no longer #1 in the world. And what caused it really was the problem he had when he was having extramarital affairs. So his standard dropped, his ratings dropped, and then even when he went back to play, he was not doing well at all. So he went to his coaches, and they had to now teach him to unlearn the bad habits he picked up over a period of time. In fact, I read somewhere that when he is playing golf, even when he is preparing for a tournament, so the day before, all the players will go to the golf course, and on the driving range, they will hit the ball. His opponents will normally hit about 40 balls in an hour, practice rounds. He will hit about 5 balls. He's got 4 coaches around him. One coach is only interested in his head movement. One, his swing. One, his waist. Then there's 4 coaches. So he'll hit one ball, he'll stop. His 4 coaches will give their opinions about that stroke. He'll give his opinion. After about 10 minutes, then he'll hit the second ball and the third ball. So professionals, this is what they do. If they do anything wrong, they have to unlearn to learn. Now, if he is 5 centimeters, if he is away from the hole, you think he might lose the entire tournament? Will he lose the entire tournament? Yes. Sometimes you lose by 1 stroke and it's about 5 centimeters away. So it is that margin of error. So the professionals, what they do is, when they get into bad habits, they have to unlearn to learn. What wall was this here that separated 2 countries? What wall was that? Berlin Wall. Right? So it separated East and West Germany. For the 2 Germanys to come together, what had to happen? That wall had to be symbolically broken. Right? So they had to unlearn what they learned over the years, communism, etc., for them to get together. And finally, even if you look at our history, before 1994, parties couldn't get together, people couldn't get together. So there had to be a change in mindset for us to have the freedom we have today. So again, there had to be unlearning in order to learn. Okay? So, question to you is, how full is my cup? Ask yourself. You all came here, you came to learn. If your cup is full, you need to empty the cup so then you can take new. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? Happy so far? And the topic that we're going to be discussing is what's called perceptions and prejudices. So you can take notes as we're going along. As I mentioned, at the end of the day, I'll give you a USB stick on which the notes are. But lots of examples and things that we give, sometimes they are not in the notes. Right? So, firstly, what do you understand by perception?
Perception is how someone views something based on their experiences in their life.
How someone views something based on the experiences of life. Good, yes. Anyone else? Perceptions? Prejudices? What does prejudice mean? Okay. Perception is the ability to see, hear, or become aware of something through the senses. The way in which something is regarded, understood, or interpreted. So you see something, you interpret it in a certain way, then that becomes a perception, your perception of it. Now let's take an example. The fees must fall issue that we had. Now what do you all feel? Fees must fall. Should we be in support of that or should we not be in support of that? What's your people's views? Anyone? What do you say?
Support of it.
Why are you in support of it?
Because learners could pay the fees when they're done with their courses and they already got graduated. And when they get the job, they can pay back the money.
Okay, so you say that if fees fall, then at least the learners will be able to continue their studies, get a qualification, and pay back whatever they borrowed. Okay, any other views? That's one view. Who agrees that fees must fall? That is a campaign that must be supported, or who feels that it shouldn't be supported? Should be supported.
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Because based on the black education, the entire tertiary and secondary education, the entire primary and secondary education of black children were mostly free.
Yes.
And now they're going into university and they suddenly have to pay for all of these expenses. How are they going to handle paying all of that expenses plus working and learning and trying to get...
Okay. The boys, what do you all feel? Should it be supported or not? You're going to be going to university soon. You might have the same problem again. Lectures are going to be disrupted. Boycott's going to happen. So what do you all feel? Should it be supported or not? Why not?
Because when things come for free, people lose the value of it.
Okay, you say that if things come for free, people won't appreciate it. Okay, that's another view. Anyone else?
There's plenty of supporting people who pay for fees, and if you know you need that, you'll work harder towards it.
You say that if you pay your own way through university, then you'll appreciate it more. You'll work hard towards it. You won't take it for granted. Okay, so there's two views. One is that it should be supported, boycott should happen, lectures should be disrupted. That's a one view, because everyone will get free education. And the other view is that if people pay their own way, then they'll appreciate it more. Any other views? What about the parents who are paying for the tertiary education? What do you think they will feel when there's disruptions? Not everyone is on bursary. Lots of parents pay themselves. So the parents paying themselves, and there's disruptions, and the kids cannot continue with their studies, how do they feel about it? Would they be in support of it or against it?
Against it.
Against it. So the question is, who is right and who is wrong? Which view is acceptable and which is not acceptable? Okay, difficult to say. Now that's an example of perception. people have different views, different perception, depending where they're coming from. Isn't that so? They look at things from a particular perspective, and this is what their views are. So a perception is your view, your opinion, your interpretation of something that is happening. And people might not have the same views on anything. Okay. Now let's just do a quick exercise. You're going to answer these questions in your book about me. Okay? There's a number of questions. Every one of you has to write down the answers. There's about 5 questions. You're going to answer the questions, and it relates to me, not to you. Right, the first question is, what have been my occupations? You can see it's occupations and not occupation. So I had more than one occupation. Right, you're going to write that down. Secondly, what car do I drive? Thirdly, how many children do I have and what are their sexes? Fourthly, what was my passion all my life? And fifthly, what is my hobby? Simple questions. Right, write down 1 to 5 and put down the answers. Right, who wants to start with regard to my occupations? I'll ask a few people, and then we go on to the next question and the next one. Who wants to start? Sheikh, you. What up? What do you say?
PSF coordinator. PSF coordinator.
Okay, besides that? Bright Sparks Forum Coordinator. Okay, I think you got something right. Okay, but besides that? Occupations. What do you got?
Ex-Al-Baraka boss.
Ex-Al-Baraka board.
Boss.
Boss. Okay, yeah?
Motivational speaker, founder of Young Leaders Academy.
Founder of Young Leaders Academy. Okay?
Author.
Sorry?
Author.
Author. What do you have to say?
The founder of Young Leader Academy.
Yeah. Okay, what about the ladies? What have been my occupations? Anyone? Yes?
A public speaker.
Public speaker? Anyone else?
Educator.
Educator? What about you?
Public speaking, motivation.
Public speaker? Occupations? Anyone's got anything different? Don't say later on, yes, I knew it. Then it's too late. Sorry? Can't hear you? TV presenter. Okay. Right, let's go on to the next one. What car do I drive? What do you think? Quick, 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 you've got no time. She doesn't know. Mercedes?
BMW.
BMW? What? Polo. Mercedes? Sorry? Mercedes? BM? Mercedes? What do you say? Mercedes. What do you all say? Mercedes, yes? Huh? BMW. Toyota. BM. Mazda. Hey, all BMWs. Yes, anyone else besides BMWs? Huh? What's that?
There's Tata cars.
Tata cars, okay. Right, let's go on to how many children do I have and what are their sexes? Let's try you.
Maybe 5 and 3 are male and 2 are female.
5, 3 males, 2 females.
3 we are all in university.
No, male or female?
Female.
3 females,
2 males.
2 males, 2 males, 2 girls, 2 males. Anyone else? Yes. Sorry? 2 females, 1 male. 3 females, 1 male. Okay, you all here?
2 sons, 1 daughter.
2 sons, 1 daughter. Anyone else? 2 daughters, 1 son. Okay. Then, what do you think was my passion all my life? Something I liked doing all my life?
Cricket.
Playing cricket. Okay. Anyone else? What do you think? Hmm? What do you think?
Inspiring people beyond the normal inspiration.
Okay.
Upliftment and development of the community.
What do you say? Cricket. Yes, you'd like to. Okay, what about you? Huh? Kick it. Okay, anyone else besides cricket? What is my passion all my life? Okay, finally, what is my hobby? Now, what's my hobby? Cricket. What else? Soccer. Softball. What else? Yes? Golf. Golf, okay. Anyone else? Huh?
Tennis.
Tennis. Okay, anyone else? Don't say afterwards, yes, I knew it. Then it's too late. Once Rasulullah, during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked a question. He wanted to know what was he referring to. And he gave a description of a particular tree. The branches are like this and the fruit is like this, etc. He asked the Sahaba, what is it? None of the Sahaba, but they gave answers, but none of them were correct. Hazrat Umar was present and his young son. After the incident, the son told Hazrat Umar, I knew what it was. It was a date palm tree. And that was the answer. So Hazrat Umar then asked his son, why did you not mention it at the time? He said, no, because all adults were there, so I didn't want to speak. He said, you should have mentioned it and I would have been very proud of you. Okay? So if you have the answers, you must give it. Since they're saying later on, oh, I knew it, then it's too late. Okay. So, let's see how many of you got any of these things right. Occupation, some of you said I was at Al Barakah Bank as a director. I was at Al Barakah Bank. I started off as a prosecutor, then I was a magistrate, then I practiced as an advocate. I don't know why I didn't get that right, because they were referring to me as an advocate. Then I was a lecturer at the university in the law faculty. Then I was working at Al Barakah Bank for a number of years, and last 5 years as an executive. And then I'm doing what I'm doing now, right? Leadership training, motivation, soft skill training, and so forth. So how many of you got it right? One or two, right? And not everything. What car do I drive? I drive a Volvo, and it is 10 years old, right? So none of you got it. Normally, when people see me dressed like this, they say I drive a Mercedes, I drive a BM, or I drive a Audi. When I wear a kurta, then they say I drive a Toyota. And some of them say I drive a Toyota Cressida. Maybe they think I'm in Jamaat, that's why, right? So, then how many children do I have and what are the sexes? I have 4 children, all of them are boys. Then what was my passion all my life? Because I spoke about cricket, so many of you said cricket. Yes, sports was my passion all my life. Right, I even played cricket at provincial level when I was in grade 10. So at age of 16, I was already playing cricket for Natal at senior level. Then I was playing squash also at provincial level. So sports all my life was my passion, right? What's my passion now, or what's my hobby now? My hobby now is scuba diving. Not scuba diving? What's scuba diving? Putting on the mask and putting on the oxygen tank and going into the deep sea. Diving with the sharks. Right, so that's my hobby. So, how many of these answers you got right? How many of you got more than one answer right? Pick up your hand. How many of you? Okay. How many of you got more than 2 answers right? You? What were your answers?
Public speaking, cricket, and again public speaking.
Okay. Now, what do we learn from the simple exercise? What do we learn? What's the topic we're discussing? And what do we learn from the simple exercise?
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Don't judge a book by its cover. Yes. What else? What do we learn? Yes?
What you see is not what you get.
What you see is not what you get, what you see is not always what is the correct position. So what do we learn from this is to have an open mind. Have an open mind. When you see things, when you see people, don't jump to conclusions. Be non-judgmental, right? Quite often when we see people, even before they open their mouth, we already draw conclusions about them. Say for instance, you're sitting at the airport waiting for your plane, or you're waiting for your bus or taxi or whatever, and you see people walking past. What goes through your mind? Who is this person? Where are they going? What is their occupation? So already before the person opens their mouth, we're drawing conclusions about the person. So that's perception. So we must be careful. We must be non-judgmental. Right, now have a look at these two ends. So the one end has got a small shrub on top and the other one has got a large shrub. So the one is saying, so we should never judge by appearances. So whose is more? The one what you can see or the one you can't see? Right. People who judge don't matter, and people who matter don't. Those who judge will never understand, and those who understand will never judge. Okay. Now I'm going to show you some video clips to drive home the point I'm making.
A lady sat next to the taxi driver while all the seats were empty in the back. A Muslim man with a long beard walked past a masjid while the people were praying and he didn't enter to pray. A Muslim greeted with Assalamu alaikum to another Muslim. The other Muslim didn't reply. The lady who sat next to the taxi driver was his wife. The man who didn't join the prayer had already prayed in another masjid. The man didn't reply to the greeting because he had a hearing problem. One of the Salaf said, if I see someone with alcohol dripping from his beard, then I'll say perhaps it spilled on him. And if I see him on top of a mountain saying, I am your Lord, the Most High, then I'll say he is reciting an ayah from the Quran. Most of the time, we only see a part of the picture. So imagine the rest of the picture in a positive way, giving the other person the benefit of the doubt in order to not wrong others by judging them. Think good about people, give them excuses, be merciful to them, and your heart will be at ease.
Do you agree with that? So if you see someone going past the mosque, don't jump to conclusion that that person is not going to read salah. You see a male and female in a car together or wherever, don't jump to conclusions that about them and so forth.
I want to tell you a story. It's a bit embarrassing, actually. A few years ago, we invited a speaker from the UK to come and give us a talk in the town that I was living. My friends and I were standing outside the lecture theatre and we're watching people come in and fill up the seats. One particular young girl stood out to me, and she stood out for all the wrong reasons. She was wearing clothes that were spray-on tight. She had a face full of makeup. She had one of these half sort of loosely tied hijabs going on. I went to my friends and I said to them, what's wrong with this girl, and why isn't she, respecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and why is she dressed in this way, and of all the places you could go dressed like this, why choose this particular event? And it just hit a nerve for me for some reason. And at the end of the talk, someone made their way up to the stage and handed him a little paper note. He unfolded it on the stage and he read it, and it said that there's 2 non-Muslim women in here that want to come on stage and say their shahada. They want to accept Islam. And then, subhanAllah, it was that very same girl that I saw walking in that I had been so critical of in my mind. She was the one that made her way to the stage and said her shahada and became Muslim.
I was at a masjid where I was leading the prayer. And so, it was during the daytime, I think it was Salat al-Asr. The masjid is that busy. A young gentleman walked in to the masjid to pray. Now, the gentleman was literally covered in tattoos. And he said at that moment, it just sunk in. Because when you're caught up in that whole lifestyle, you don't think. He said it sunk in, and it hit me. My life's over. So he said, at that moment, I just couldn't help myself. He said, in my cell, I fell into sujood. The man tells me, he was 23 years old at the time. He memorized the entire Quran. Young man didn't even know how to read alif, ba, ta, tha. He started from scratch. He memorized the entire Quran cover to cover in 8 months.
I promise you, travel has taught me a lot, my brother. The biggest lesson it has taught me, I never judge any person by his condition. Never judge. I was in UK, Birmingham recently, was Sayrif al-Bilad, traveled. I landed at the airport, I was ushered out, we were taken to a masjid to lead the Jummah Salah. I enter the masjid, I start my Jummah talk. There's a man in the first saf, right in the first saf. This guy's got tattoos right across his entire body. Be it as it may, I concluded my talk, I exit from the masjid, the brother comes, he hugs me, Shaykh, how are you, brother? I come from a staunch Sikh family. I've accepted Islam 3 days ago, my first Jummah in my life. Oh my Allah, did it hit my heart? Did it hit my heart? This man, he has a clean slate. He's closer to Allah than I could be till my last breath.
I want you all to discuss, maybe 3 in the group. I want you to discuss, can you recall any incidents where you personally jumped to a conclusion, wrong conclusion about someone, where you prejudged someone, right? Just discuss it among yourselves. And secondly, have you come across a situation where others have prejudged you without knowing the full facts? Okay? Understand what is required? So discuss it, write it down, and then we'll share it. Right, so I want a discussion here. 3 of you. So you join them there, in that, so make 4. You 4. Join them here. And then you people together. Similarly, yes. Right, so smaller the group, the better, so there's more contribution. So the 3 of you, you can move your chair back slightly so you're in a semicircle. You move your chair back slightly in a semicircle. Yeah, move your chair back slightly so you're facing each other. You can move your chair slightly back. Move your chair slightly back. You, no, you. So you're in a semicircle, right. Either you were the guilty party, you prejudged someone without having all the facts, and secondly, has it happened to you? Okay, take your seats again, please. All right, let's have some discussion. Does anyone want to share any experiences, either where they, by mistake, prejudged someone else, or someone had prejudged them without having all the facts? Who wants to start? I'm going to go to all the groups, so everyone's going to get an opportunity to speak. So whoever is going to volunteer first, and then the group to their right will be next. So even you boys who don't have tongues, you're going to have a chance as well. Okay? So who wants to start, the boys or the girls? So far the girls have been outstripping you all in everything so far, in answering, getting the right answers, contributing, everything. So let's see if you all can now outshine them for a change. Right, who wants to start? Anyone? Even if it's not a personal experience, but you've experienced, you've seen something, you've heard something where it was people had taken the wrong, perceived something incorrectly. Who wants to start? And the people who are looking down, there's the first people I'll choose. Right, who wants to start? Right, whoever starts will get a chocolate. 4-finger Kit Kat. Who wants? 4-finger Kit Kat. Okay, see, we got a take already. Right. But first, I must give you a story, then I'll give you the Kit Kat. Right, you want to share with us? Wa alaikum salam.
There was once a girl and 2 boys. This girl had a relationship with one boy. So when they were in the relationship, this boy was a Hafiz. And this boy was a Hafiz. The family was not rich. So the girl expected everything from the boy because they were in the relationship. So now the girl told the boy that you can't even afford just getting me a present for my birthday. When the boy bought a Quran, it was the boy's Quran. This Quran the boy uses when he was doing Hafiz, he was using it to read the Quran from it, and then he gave the Quran to the girl. When the girl said this, present that you can give me is just the Quran. You can't even give me a present like chocolate, something like that. And now between me and you, it's over. I don't want you anymore. So now the boy was hurt because the boy liked the girl. So now the girl went away. After so many years, the boy was a Maulana, and then he qualified more, and then after that he became a businessman. After that, they were in a restaurant. The girl was married to another boy. This boy worked for the first boy that the girl was in love with. So now the girl realized that this is the boy that was in love with, and then she called the name, and then this boy looked at her, and then after that, it seems like everything is doing fine with you, and then the boy said, yeah, everything is fine. And I said, you know, my husband is working, and like they're paying him about 10,000 every month, and my life is good. So now when the girl was busy talking with this boy, the husband came, and the husband said sir to the boy. So now the girl became confused. And then the boy sat down, the husband sat down with the girl and said, sit down. This is my son, the son that I always told you about. One girl left him because he didn't have money and all those stuff to give him presents and all those stuff. And now he has everything, but she doesn't have a wife because she don't want anyone to marry. As girls, they are not thankful, and they only want their wealth. They don't appreciate them. They don't know what is love. And now this of mine is not married. He's still searching for a better wife to marry. So now the girl was guilty of it.
MashaAllah. Say MashaAllah. Jazakallah. Right, I think that's a very good story, because the girl herself, she was not happy with the guy because she thought, what can he do? He's becoming a Hafiz, etc. But at the end of the day, she had made error, right? So her perception about this person turned out to be totally incorrect. Good story. Jazakallah. Right, who's next? Right, you people. Right, you people's turn. Double's turn. Come. Everyone's going to have a turn. Everyone's going to have a turn today. Right, who else wants to volunteer? Good. Walaikum salam.
Yeah, so there was once a girl and his boyfriend. So one day it was this girl's birthday.
Put it closer to your mouth.
It was this girl's birthday. And the parents came and her friends with presents and stuff. Yeah. Then the girl's boyfriend came also. Then for the girl's birthday, the boyfriend gave the girl bread. You see. So the girl was crying and she was so disappointed, like she was crying. You see. Then she took the bread and she threw it on the boy's face. The boy was sitting there watching the girl crying. So the boy took the bread, then he opened the bag inside, then he took out the ring and the car keys. The girl was like, what, baby? Then the boy just stood up and went.
So what was inside the bread?
It was a car key.
Car key was inside the bread. Right. The boys, anyone? Anyone? Who wants to take a try? Right, what about you people? Anyone? No one. Okay. Anyone else want to volunteer? They got no stories to tell? No perceptions? So what do we understand with perceptions? We have to be very careful. Don't prejudge people unless we have all the facts. The four clips that I played you spelled it out quite clearly, the mistakes that we could make. And this is something that happens almost on a daily basis. Agree? So we must see, we have to be very careful in future when anything we're confronted with, before we give an opinion, before we make a statement, before we come to conclusions, that we have all the facts, okay? Everyone has two eyes, but no one has the same view. Now say for instance, you people are sitting there and I were to draw a 6 in front of me on the ground. On the floor, I draw a 6. I'm seeing a 6. What are you seeing? 9. So who's right? Am I right or are you right? Both are right. So that quite often happens in life. Things are happening. You have one view of it, one opinion of it, I have another opinion of it. Not necessarily both of us are wrong. Both of us could be right. Right? Now the problem is where I've got one view and you've got another view. And I insist I am right and you insist that you are right. Then what happens? What do we have? What do we have? Conflict. So we have to be very, very careful. We are discussing perception. Perception is like a mental map. I see things through a mental map, through a certain framework, and you are seeing things, the same thing, through a different mental map. So my view of it might be different, my perception of it might be different, my conclusion of it might be different from yours. So we have to be very, very careful. The fact that my view is different from yours doesn't necessarily mean that you are wrong. I must appreciate that. And I'll give you a good example just now from the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Right, now there was a pious drunkard and a fornicator. Now this was during the time of Sultan Murad IV. He was a sultan of the Ottoman Empire. And what he used to do, just like how Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu used to do during his time, he used to go through the alleyways of his town to see the condition of his people. So Sultan Murad used to go under disguise, so the people didn't know who he was, and he used to go with his chief security officer. So one day while he's going through the streets, he saw on a busy street there was someone lying on the ground, and when he prodded him, he found that this person was dead. The people were carrying on in their own business. They were totally disregarding him, although they knew that he was dead. So he found it strange. So he asked, why is this man lying dead on the ground, and why does no one seem to care? Where is his family? They replied, he is so and so. He is a drunkard and he is a fornicator. So that is why the people were ignoring him. So he then, Sultan Murad stated, but is he not from the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Help me. So a few people helped him. They carried him and they took him to his house. When they got to his house, this is what his wife said. When the man's wife saw his dead body, she began weeping. She said to his dead body, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on you, O friend of Allah. I bear witness that you are from the pious ones. Sultan was bewildered. He could not understand why she's saying this. How is he from the pious ones when the people say such and such about him? So much so that no one even cared about the fact that he was dead. And just look at her response. I was expecting this. My husband would go to the tavern, that is the place where they sell liquor, every night buy as much wine as he could. He would then bring it home, pour it down the drain, and he would then say, I saved the Muslims a little today. He would then go to the prostitute den, give the lady some money and tell her to close her door till the morning. He would then return home for the second time and say, today I saved a young woman and the youth of the believers from vice. The people would see him buying wine and they would see him going to the prostitute's den and they would talk ill about him. One day I said to him, when you die, there will be no one to bathe you, there will be no one to pray over you, and there will be no one to bury you. He laughed and replied, do not fear, the Sultan of the believers, along with the pious ones, shall pray over my body. And the Sultan began crying. He said, by Allah, he has said the truth, for I am the Sultan. Tomorrow we shall bathe him, pray over him and bury him. And the Sultan, the scholars, the pious people and the masses all prayed over him. We judge people by what we see and what we hear from others. only if we were to see what was concealed in their hearts, a secret between them and their Allah. If Allah knows, why does it matter who knows and who doesn't know? A good example of how you have to be very careful in not prejudging people if you don't have all the facts. I was reading recently the story of Mufti Taqi Usmani. He mentioned an incident where there was a person, a young Muslim came to him. He didn't have any appearance of piety on his face or in his clothing at all. His face was totally shaven, clothing also. So when he saw this person, immediately it's going through his mind what type of person this is. So the person came to him and asked him the question. He said, Mufti Sahib, my profession is that of an actuary. You know what an actuary is? People are very, very good with figures. They would normally go into that field and you do a whole lot of calculations and so forth. And these people are about the highest earning people in the country. Very, very well paid because very intelligent people. But these people mainly work for banks and insurance companies because you have to predict the future. So they do all the calculations, right? So he came to Mufti Taqi Usmani and he asked him, is it permissible for a Muslim to have the occupation of an actuary? So Mufti Taqi Usmani, knowing that it is not permitted, he began explaining to him. He said that, you know, what the Sharia says, that if you have a job, you mustn't just give up the job. First you must try and find an alternative job because your family could suffer if you don't have a job and could lead to you doing wrong things also if you don't have money. So explaining to him why he should keep his job until such time that he found a suitable alternative. So the young man told him, I want to know whether it's permissible or not permissible. So he said, no, it's not permissible. He said, if it's not permissible, if that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's law, then I'm giving up this occupation immediately. I'm going to go in and hand in my resignation. And that's what he did. So Mufti Taqi Usmani, in writing the book, he says, my impression of the man was one thing, but look what a character he had. Look what feeling of the deen he had in his heart. That as soon as I told him it's not permitted, he went and put in his resignation. And he said shortly thereafter, I heard he's writing in his book that he's working in America. He's got a very good job and it's outside these industries that are not permitted. See, so no matter who you are, Mufti Taqi Usmani is one of the greatest and contemporary banking experts in the world. Darul Ulooms, he does lectures there in Karachi. So a person of his caliber can also fall into this trap. So how careful we have to be. Okay? There's a Quranic verse that says, beware of suspicion, for certainly suspicion is the most belying of speech. Or the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Beware of suspicion, certainly suspicion is the most belying of speech. And I'll conclude on this. There was an expedition that the Prophet ﷺ sent to a place called Banu Khurayza. Now, Banu Khurayza was a place just outside Medina. So the Prophet ﷺ told the Sahaba that you must perform your Asr Salat when you get to your destination, which was Banu Khurayza. So in other words, you mustn't perform it on the way. It was a very big group of Sahaba that left, very big expedition. So whilst on their way, Asr time had already arrived and it was almost coming to Maghrib time. So some Sahaba decided to perform the Asr Salat on the way before reaching Banu Khurayza. The other Sahaba decided, no, the commandment of Rasulullah ﷺ is to perform it there, so we're not going to perform it here. So they went to the destination and performed it, but it was after Maghrib Salat time. Right? So who is right? One group performed it on the way, and one group performed it after the time was up. Who's right and who's wrong? What do you think? Who's right, who's wrong? Sorry? So if those who read it on the way, they are right. Who disagrees with that? You disagree. Why you disagree?
Because it is the command of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to read it at Khurayza.
Because what did the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam command? Commanded that it should be read there. So who is right and who is wrong? So they had a difference of opinion when they went back to Medina and they related the story to Prophet ﷺ. He did not say that any one of them was wrong. Each one was looking at it from a different perspective. One was following the word of the Prophet ﷺ that when you get there, then you perform salah, which is what they did. But what does Sharia teach us about performing salah on time? You have to perform it on time. So the one group performed it with that in mind, the other group performed it with the words, the literal meaning of the Prophet ﷺ. Scholars say that what the Prophet ﷺ had in mind was, it was a very big group, but the distance was short, so hopefully if they go speedily, they'll reach the destination, and that is where they must perform their salah. So that's an example. Even during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were differences of opinion. Prophet did not say that, okay, you are right and you are wrong. So it depends on the situation. So we also have to be very, very, very careful. Don't prejudge, because we might be wrong. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? Comments? Contributions? Anyone? You understand what perceptions are? Prejudices? What are we going to do in future? Have we ever been involved in jumping to the wrong conclusion about others? Have we? Who hasn't? Raise your hand. Who hasn't? All of us are guilty of it, right? So we have to be very, very careful, inshallah. Right, we're going to be commencing with our training on using this international material, which is called Habitudes. Habitudes is really how to develop leadership using images, and images that change habits and attitudes. Images that change